need to try out this glaive assassin build. It's insanely satisfying watching everything get destroyed while being invisible the entire time. This build was a lot of fun to put together, and I'd say I love every single thing about it, except for that right arm. I mean, look at that thing. Is that even necessary? If you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. This build is all about being invisible and being up close and personal with the glaive. And there's a lot of people out there who hate on glaives, but realistically, the damage reduction you get from raising your shield makes you essentially unkillable, and the actual damage output for using the special attack and even the melee attack is quite strong. Primary weapon for this build is the elliptic distaff. If you don't have it, it's pretty easy to acquire. You just go to the tower, interact with this monument in between your vault, and at the bottom under legacy gear, you can open that up, and on the right hand side, you can buy it for some glimmer, legendary shards, enhancement prism, and ascendant shard. The reason we're using this glaive is because it's void, and we have to match our subclass, which is going to allow us to go invisible quite often. And this glaive has destabilizing rounds, which when you get a final blow with it, it's going to cause nearby targets to become volatile, and that only works for the ranged attack. It doesn't work for the melee attack, but once you get a target volatile, then you can hit that target with your melee attack and cause them to explode. Your other weapons aren't as important. I'm using a Strand auto rifle so I can take care of barrier champions, as well as utilize Strand for the artifact mod, and I'm also utilizing a machine gun for overload champions, but realistically you can utilize any heavy you'd like. Our main armor exotic for this build is the Triton Vice. This was introduced last season, and you can get it farming lost sectors on Arms Day, or you can go to Neomuna and look for the Vex Incursion Zone and wait for the public event to spawn. That'll give you rewards that say exotic gear at the bottom, and that's just going to give you an exotic that you don't have, and it's on a knockout system, so eventually you'll get the exotic. And there's always a lot of people here, so if you can't farm legendary lost sectors because you're too low level or something, then you can easily just wait for one of these to pop up that drop exotic gear, do it with a group, and you'll get an exotic at the end. The perk on these are the Halberder's Reach. Increases glaive reload speed and melee damage when surrounded. Glaive melee final blows overflow around into the magazine. Glaive projectile final blows detonate if glaive deals damage matching your subclass type. So since we're using the void subclass and a void glaive, whenever we get a ranged kill with it, it only works with the ranged kill, not the melee kill. It's going to cause that target to explode. And since we have destabilizing rounds, when you get that final blow with the ranged kill, it's going to make all the other enemies nearby volatile while exploding that enemy, so it can deal out additional damage. In our subclass under abilities, we're using the marksman dodge for that low cooldown time, because we're going to be utilizing the dodge a lot for various different reasons. But this is going to reload our weapon, which isn't that essential because anytime we get a melee kill, it's going to reload our glaive anyway. Use any jump you'd like. Then we have the snare bomb, which you can always take advantage of this because it's going to weaken targets, as well as any grenade you would like. For our aspects, we're using vanishing step. Dodging makes us invisible, and our dodge will be on a super low cooldown, so it's just an extra way of going invisible. Our main way of going invisible is through Stylus Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile targets grants invisibility and true sight. After performing a Stylus Execution, your next melee attack while invisible weakens targets. So if we throw our smoke bomb, we can weaken targets, and if we kill that target, we'll go invisible. Also, using the destabilizing rounds from our glaive is going to make targets volatile, so killing volatile targets will make us invisible as well. And our fragments are going to further push invisibility and volatile. With Echo of Obscurity, finisher final blows grant invisibility. Echo of Sensation, finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that cause nearby targets to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach, and picking up a void breach is going to grant us class ability energy to reduce our dodge cooldown. So now when we get a finisher off, we're going to instantly go invisible. We're going to create all the nearby targets are going to become volatile, and if we kill any of those volatile targets in any means, so we can use our melee glaive, it's going to make us invisible, and it's going to create a void breach. Echo of Persistence, void buffs applied to you. Invisibility, overshields, and devour have increased duration, so we can stay invisible longer. And we're also utilizing Devour through Echo of Starvation. Whenever we pick up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power, we're going to gain Devour. And Devour, anytime we defeat a foe, it's going to restore us to full health and grant grenade energy, and it will extend Devour. So therefore, you can use the ranged glaive on an enemy to either kill them and make other enemies become volatile, so you can run up and melee them and become invisible, or you can get an enemy low enough to go and finish them, which will turn you invisible, and it'll make enemies nearby volatile. So you can constantly chain becoming invisible through different methods. We also have a few things in the artifact that will help this build out a lot. You can utilize the Void Strand Siphon combo if you're using Strand with this build, as well as Thanatotic Tangles. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to generate a Tangled, which isn't that important, but if you are using a Strand weapon, it always just helps. Also, Elemental Orbs Void. Anytime we use a Void subclass and get a Void weapon final blow, we have a chance to spawn a Void Elemental Orb, which can be thrown and it'll explode and also make nearby enemies volatile. Again, if you're going against Overload champions, you can use Overload Machine Gun. Elemental Fury for any champions. While they're stunned, they're going to take bonus damage from our abilities and Elemental Orbs. And Refreshing Pickups. Anytime we pick up a Tangled or an Elemental Orb, it's going to grant energy for our least powered ability. And in that final column, Elemental Munitions. Combatant final blows with Tangled or Elemental Orbs have a chance to drop special or heavy ammo, which is going to keep our glaive stocked up. And Monochromatic Maestro. Dealing elemental ability damage increases matching weapon damage, and elemental weapon damage increases matching ability damage. Gives you 10% for 5 seconds. So this will keep our glaive dealing more damage or our abilities. For your stats, you should be using Resilience because we're going to be up close and personal, as well as Mobility is a decent secondary stat just to have lower cooldown on our dodge. Now, looking at our mods in our helmet, we have that Void Strand Dual Siphon. Whenever we get a rapid weapon final blow with Void or Strand weapons, it's going to create an Orb of Power, as well as Dynamo to reduce our super cooldown when using our class ability near targets. So whenever we dodge near targets, we'll become invisible. It'll also give us a chunk of super energy back. In our arms, we're using Bolstering Detonation and Focusing Strike. It's going to grant us class ability energy whenever we cause damage with a melee attack or a grenade, as well as Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. In your chest piece, you want to make sure you have melee damage resist since we're so close, and probably Concussive Dampener. In our legs, use Recuperation, Insulation, and Absolution. Recuperation is going to replenish health each time we pick up an Orb of Power. Insulation will reduce class ability cooldown when we pick up an Orb of Power, and Absolution will reduce all cooldowns when we pick up an Orb of Power. In your class item, you should have a Powerful Attraction to automatically collect nearby Orbs of Power when we activate our class ability. Utility Kickstart. Whenever we use our class ability and it's fully expended, it'll give us a chunk back, as well as consume any armor charge to give us additional energy back. And Bomber, reduce our grenade cooldown when we use our class ability. So most of these mods are focused around our dodge. So whenever we dodge near enemies, if there's Orbs of Power, it'll collect them all, which will give us all the benefits from healing and reducing our abilities. And all of our other abilities are going to help reduce our dodge. So our dodge should be up quite often, so you can spam it to go invisible, and you're also going to be becoming invisible from killing anything that's weakened or volatile. And you should be able to make pretty much everything weak or volatile. And don't forget, when you're up close with the glaive, to utilize that shield, because it's going to give you an insane damage resist, which is going to help you survive quite a bit until you can get a kill and proc Devour. And for the origin trait, using Gun and Run is pretty good, because rapidly defeating targets with this weapon is going to grant us bonus sprint speed, and powerful combatants grant this bonus quicker. I hope you enjoy this build as much as I do. That's all I got for this one, and as always, I hope you have an awesome day. Peace.